Good afternoon, Fifth Street Baptist Church. I hope that you're having a wonderful week. I really enjoyed our time of worship this weekend as we saw a little bit of a bigger participation on Sunday morning. Some folks back who we hadn't seen in a while. We had some friends that came in from out of town that joined us, and that was really awesome. Sunday night was full of folks. We enjoyed a full fellowship hall with our milestone. So it really was a great weekend. One of the things that I enjoyed over the last couple weeks is the NCAA basketball tournament. So I don't know if you're a basketball fan or not, but it's one of my favorite times, kind of one of my favorite sporting events of the year. Every year they have a big tournament for college basketball. Certain teams are invited to come and be a part of this, only the best teams. Well, these teams are seeded from 1 to 16 in 4 different regions. And rarely do the 16, the 15, the 14, the 11, 12, rarely do those high-seeded teams ever really win any games. But once in a while, there's a team that'll start to win games. They call that a Cinderella team because it's sort of like an unbelievable story like Cinderella and Prince Charming. And so the Cinderella team this year was St. Peter's. So St. Peter's is a small college up in New Jersey. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of really great players necessarily every year. But this particular year, as a 15 rated seed, they made a great showing at the NCAA tournament. And so they made it all the way to the Elite Eight this year. And every time they would go to the next round of the tournament, the experts would tell everybody, well, they're probably not going to win. They've been playing really great, but they can't beat, this next great team. They had a good run, but this will be the end for them. And they ended up making it all the way to the Elite Eight, which is pretty amazing. They did something that no other team had done before as a 15 seed, and it was just really neat to cheer them on and see the impossible become possible. And that reminded me of what Jesus did for us on the cross. So we're approaching Easter season as we now prepare to remember what Jesus did in his death on the cross, and then also to celebrate Jesus' resurrection from the dead. What's great about this season of ministry is that people are more open to spiritual conversations. And here's the reason why. So if you look at Romans chapter 5, beginning verse 6, this is what it said. For while we were still helpless at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. That means that while we were still sinners, Jesus died for us on the cross. We didn't deserve it. We didn't earn it. We are God's Cinderella story. And verse 7 continues, for one will hardly die for a righteous man, though perhaps for the good man, someone would dare even to die. So he's saying basically, someone might give their life for someone whom they loved and whom was good, but rarely, if ever, would someone die for someone who's evil. And yet, God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, while we were still evil, while we had our backs turned against God, while we were God's enemies and didn't love God, Christ died for us. Verse 9, much more than having been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from the wrath of God through him. For if we were enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son. Much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. And not only this, but we also exalt in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have now received the reconciliation. So church, we are the Cinderella story. We are the 15, the 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. We were helpless. We could do nothing to bring about our salvation and forgiveness of sins. God saw us in our despair, in our sin, and while we were enemies of his, he sent Jesus to die on the cross for us. And so that's my message to you. It's a message of hope. It's a message of joy. It's a message to remind you of what Jesus did for you and I on the cross. And so I want to remind you this Easter season, find that person who needs to hear the message. Tell them about Jesus and invite them to be a part of what Jesus is doing at Fifth Street Baptist Church. I pray for God's blessing over your life and that he's going to do a great thing in your life this week as you go about his business. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.